Hello, everybody. Welcome to our preview of Elimination Chamber. It's John Pollock alongside Jimmy Corderas. Elimination Chamber is happening this Sunday from Corpus Christi, Texas, which, Jimmy, there are certain cities out there that have a reputation. This past Monday, Raw was in one of them, in Long Island, New York. I think you could throw Pittsburgh in the mix. Cities that are often tough to get crowd reactions from.
Right.
And what are some of these cities, and where does Corpus Christi rank?
I always say that Corpus Christi is one of the toughest, if not the toughest cities to get a reaction out of. For some reason, you really have to do something, really spectacular to get any kind of reaction down there. If you're having I hate to put it this way, if you're having a decent wrestling show going on, it's almost like they kind of half expect it. Okay, well, we're just going to sit on our hands and wait till something spectacular happens. And even when it does, it's kind of like they pop for a few seconds, but then they're back down to, hopefully it's different Sunday.
It's momentary.
Yeah, and it's not like the Japanese crowd where it's a respectful thing, where they're quiet out of respect. It's a completely different thing.
Yeah, and it'll certainly play with certain performers where, if you're back there getting ready to go out. It's a down crowd. What's kind of the perspective of the locker room when they're going into situations like that? Is it kind of, they've got to work that much harder to get a reaction from the crowd, or does it take a lot out of them in terms of going out there knowing that this is a crowd that is very hard to please?
It all depends on the individual. I think almost everybody to a T, when they enter a city with a reputation like Corpus Christi, their mindset is, okay, these guys are usually quiet. They're hard to get a reaction out of. We're going to get a reaction out of these people. We're going to do something to get them out, get them to respond. And they take it as a personal challenge. This is completely off the board, but it's almost like back in the day with JBL when he would cut those heel promos in the ring when he was the wrestling god.
Yes.
And it was almost like he wanted to infuriate people to the point where, to get them to want to almost jump the barrier.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Which we don't encourage. Obviously, nobody wants people to jump the barrier. It's not.
But if you get the audience into the mindset of even thinking about that,
yes,
to incite such a riot, it can sometimes be a very good thing for the overall reaction to a show.
Exactly.
And I bring this up because this is an important show, I think, for no one more than Kevin Owens, Kevin Steen, who will be making his, I guess we don't call it a pay-per-view, but a network special debut for the WWE main roster as he takes on John Cena. They've only had 2 weeks to build this up, but I think less has been more in this case. It's been 2 weeks where it's been basic. Kevin Owens has shown up, he's laid out John Cena, and stepped on top of the United States title, positioning the NXT title as his prize. And this Sunday, it's a non-title match,
right,
which I think is a benefit because it certainly opens up the possibilities of where you can go with the finish here. I wouldn't want to see Owens taking the U.S. title to NXT, and I definitely don't think it makes sense that the NXT title would be on the line in this sense. So
no,
I think the non-title was the way to go. What have you thought of the way they have introduced Kevin Owens? Because this feels like the match that people have the most anticipation for on Sunday.
I like the way he's been presented so far, and that's the toughest challenge when you're bringing somebody up from the NXT roster. And I know the diehard fans who pay attention to NXT and pay attention to Kevin Owens' career throughout the past 15 years or so know who he is. And like he said on Monday night, for the 2 Monday nights ago when he cutting his promo against Cena, and for those of you who don't know who I am, basically I don't have time for you, which was kind of nice. I like that. But his introduction has been different from everybody else's. It's not a lot of fanfare like they did with Neville. It just feels genuine. It feels raw. It feels, like you said, simple. Like simple sometimes is best.
And he's introduced immediately as a threat to John Cena, who is perceived as a top guy. And if you didn't know him, you took notice of this guy. It was very much harkens back to when they would introduce characters way back, where you'd get the vignettes for week after week after week, and you were starting to think, man, this guy must be a big deal. And then he'd come in, and he would just slaughter guys for weeks on end. They don't have that luxury of, introducing a guy for weeks on end. And they had 2 weeks to build this up, and I think a pretty effective job thus far.
And John Cena's done a pretty effective job of helping Kevin Owens get his next merchandise T-shirt over, with that Fight Owens Fight T-shirt that he's got. See, that's a businessman doing business. I mean, John Cena, obviously the #1 selling merchandise guy in the WWE for the last I don't know how many years, and here he is giving the merchandise rub to a newcomer like Kevin Owens. Little things like that that kind of go unnoticed. And I always talk about how much flack he gets for not, people this perceived that he doesn't do business the right way for young guys and help young talent. But that's what that's all he's been doing lately.
Yeah, and even subtle working in, for Sunday, just the simple psychology of, for those of you that have just chant, let's go Cena, Cena sucks. Yeah. It's like, why don't you get behind the guy that you feel can stop me? Because by chanting win or fight Owens fight, it's creating that chant for Sunday. They're essentially planting the seed there and putting the psychology that if you chant this, it shows you really are behind this guy, and rather not just against some nameless, faceless guy that's my opponent of the month. So I like that addition to the promo on Monday as well. And I really hope the crowd is up for this, because this is very much on an audition for Kevin Owens to people behind the curtain in the WWE, seeing how he does hang with someone like John Cena, because for whatever he has done in NXT or past that, I mean, this is to many decision makers in the WWE, this will be what he is judged upon, his performance on Sunday. So to say it's the most important match of his career, that isn't hyperbole. I would say this is a very important performance for Kevin Owens to show that he hangs with John Cena and gets a reaction that we should be behind this guy.
But that's the important thing, just like you said, John, that he can hang with John Cena. I'm going against the norm here. I don't think that Kevin Owens, especially in a non-title match here, I don't think he actually needs to defeat John Cena clean 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. Like you said, hanging with John Cena means a lot more. I'm not a big fan of non-finishes, so to speak, but in this particular case, I think it can be beneficial if you want to explore the possibilities of Kevin Owens having that I don't give a you-know-what attitude. Like in his promo, he said that recently. He said that look what I did to Sami Zayn, and that's somebody I care about. Imagine what I'll do to John Cena, someone who I really don't care about. I like the twist. So having him defeat John Cena like in a clean 1, 2, 3, I don't think is necessary here. I think sending a message and making a statement is more important for Kevin Owens in this, as opposed to a W or an L. Yeah,
and they've made it open-ended that they could do something. I mean, leaving John Cena laid out, or they get into this wild brawl after a very entertaining match. There's certainly ways that they can do a non-finish and come back to this, whether it's as quickly as Money in the Bank 2 weeks later or down the road. And I think if you are going to be taking a step back, and this is just a momentary use of Kevin Owens on the main roster, I think the idea of beating John Cena and then he disappears and it's this loss hanging over John Cena and you don't know when Owens is coming back, but it's a feud that you always have on the back burner that you can instantly bring him back and revisit this feud. I think John Cena winning clean, it wouldn't surprise me if they did that, but nonetheless, I think that gives you the least amount of options coming out of this. Kevin Owens feels like somebody that if you let this guy talk, he is going to get over. And I think that he's somebody that the audience already takes as somebody to view as a threat. And that doesn't always happen with guys when they're called up and being able to be seen at the same level as the established stars. So interesting booking that they have on their hands on Sunday.
And a little seed, I think, was planted on Monday night as well with Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens, because obviously, mentioning the fact that he's wrestled Kevin Owens all over the world, but come on. I'm the guy. So maybe there's a little dissension there. Who knows?
Well, that can take us over to Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose for the title on Sunday. Certainly Dean Ambrose in the last few weeks where they have inserted him into this role, challenging Seth Rollins. You've seen, the crowd in Long Island, for all we've said about being a tough crowd. They were very much into Dean Ambrose on Monday. Is there any possibility of a quick title switch here, or is this, pardon the pun, Money in the Bank that Seth Rollins is leaving with the title Sunday?
I think you can, if I were a betting man, and I've been known to throw down a few cents here and there, I would say that Seth Rollins comes out with the title. By hook or by crook, I do like the fact that Dean Ambrose is getting an opportunity here, and maybe this is, again, one of those situations where they're testing the waters with someone like Dean Ambrose at the top of the card, trying to see how fans react. Is he a decent draw in a main event spot? It could be just as simple as that, as being a test, but I don't see him coming out with the championship. I do like the fact that he has been more like the lunatic fringe as opposed to the lunatic comedian.
Yes, which is a line they frequently dance around with the Dean Ambrose character, and I think he's got enough natural instincts to know what is too far and to take something that might be really out there and at least bring it into his character so that it can work. Sometimes when it involves mannequin dolls, probably not the direction he should be going. But I thought the closing segment to Monday, I mean, that was rather goofy with the police stuff, but was able to work, and I think people responded to it. They got into it, and you got the payoff of the contract being signed and your definitive main event for Sunday.
And teasing a little bit of Roman Reigns in the mix as well, I think.
Which he will likely get involved some way
I think so.
On Sunday, as he does not have a match on Sunday, but very much has been casting his shadow over this main event attached to Dean Ambrose. Do you feel that in this new model where, it used to be in the past where whoever you were going to be putting in your main event on pay-per-view, it was a big amount of faith because they have to draw on pay-per-view. People have to specifically buy that show for that main event. Today, it's you're subscribed to the network. So the idea that you're picking and choosing shows, that's kind of a thing of the past now. Do you think with the new network model that they are going to take more chances with guys like I don't know if this main event would be happening in the old traditional sense on pay-per-view 5 years ago, but it does allow some, the risk is not as high putting someone that is unproven into a top main event slot.
I think that's exactly what's happening right here. Like I said, giving Dean Ambrose an opportunity with Seth Rollins to quote unquote main event this network special, so to speak. But like you said, the fans are already subscribed to the network, and I would say the majority, if not all of them, who subscribe to the network will probably watch that special, whether it's live that night or at a later date at a repeat airing. So like you said, the business model has changed. It's no longer a pay-per-view driven business, or TV is driving you to buy the pay-per-views. It's now TV, regular TV is driving you to purchase the network. And once you're on the network, I think they're going to take, like you said, more chances, maybe insert certain guys into certain positions to see how they respond and what kind of reaction they get from the audience. I think you're absolutely right.
And it feels that there's going to be more of these network specials rather than less. And do you believe in the idea that just more content is more content for the network and it's constantly hitting you over the head? You need to have the network to follow this product. Or is there an oversaturation point where it's only so much you can take with let's talk about 2 Sunday specials a year, which isn't out of the realm of possibility, on top of your 3-hour Raws, 2-hour SmackDown, main event if you're watching it. Tough Enough is coming up. Right. It's almost a part-time job to be following WWE if you're a fan.
It's true. I mean, that's been the question mark for years. Excuse me. As soon as Raw expanded from 2 to 3 hours, it was a question mark there. Is that too much? Is it too oversaturation? We have Raw, we have SmackDown, main event, there's Superstars, there's all these different shows, and not to mention all the other content on the network. So people, will tend to tune into the network, I think, for short spurts. And it almost seems like I don't know how much of the on-demand stuff is being actually accessed. I mean,
from all indications, it's the live content on the network that is driving viewership. As much as people will look at the library and, man, every pay-per-view that is there, no one is watching those old shows, those old pay-per-views. It's live content, and that's what the focus is on.
So off of that, I would say that having these live specials makes perfect sense, since it seems like the majority of people who are tuning into the network are watching the live content.
Yeah, and this is a very strategic move by the company, because this is the last month they have where new subscribers get it for free, and Sunday just happens to be May 31st with the show ending approximately 11 p.m. Are you really going to be using those final 60 minutes of the month to actively cancel the network? Or are you going to shrug your shoulders? You've got the Paul Heyman podcast the next day. You've got Money in the Bank.
Another smart move.
And that they'll be hitting home very much on the Sunday show, and maybe closing the show with something big. Are you really going to cancel it? Odds are you're going to let it slide and pay for the month of June.
I would.
So, I mean, it's smart on their part.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's a business at the end of the day, and they're trying to get as many subs.
Exactly what I was going to say, that people sometimes forget that at the end of the day, they're out to make money. It's a business.
Of course. Yeah. Let's chat about the Elimination Chamber matches, which, of course, the name of the show is named after the $500,000 structure that was introduced in 2002. Now, have you ever been involved in an Elimination
Yep.
Chamber match. Tell us about your experience or experiences.
I want to say it was 2008. It was who was in it? It was Undertaker, MVP, Batista.
This would have been No Way Out, right?
Viscera, yes.
I remember this. I remember this lineup where there were some suspect names in there. You didn't
Finlay.
know. Yeah, Finlay was in there, but you had like Big Daddy V, as you mentioned. I can't remember all the names off the top of my head, but turned in to be a very good match.
Yeah, and you know when they I know people say it's a tagline that when Triple H comes out and says there isn't any part of that structure that doesn't hurt. He's not lying, man. I mean, that thing is a solid steel structure with I don't know how many miles of chain surrounding it. So when you bump on that stuff, it absolutely hurts. And I remember in the match that I refereed, the one I was just talking about, it's weird because the rules had changed over the years. At one point, all pinfalls had to happen inside the ring. And then they changed it where pinfalls could happen anywhere inside the structure. So even if they were on the steel grate, you know. And
On top of the pod.
Oh, yeah. And I remember Undertaker grabbing Finlay and choke slamming him over the top rope onto the steel grate, and that's where the pinfall happened. And I'm like, oh, my goodness. But
you got to count the fall on that metal.
But I'm thinking to myself, okay, this hurts my hand, but I didn't just take a choke slam on the thing. So I think I could suck this up, you know, and count on the grade. People are looking like, didn't that hurt? He just took a choke slam on it. You're asking me if I hurt my hand counting? Please.
So we've got the vacant Intercontinental title in one chamber match. We will have two on Sunday. Some interesting names part of this. Rusev. We've got R-Truth. Kind of the two extremes here, I guess, from the pick everyone is going with versus R-Truth, who I think it's safe to say will be getting the participation medal.
Yeah, I don't see R-Truth coming out of this with the Intercontinental Championship at all. Rusev, like you said, is probably the odds-on favorite, but don't count out Sheamus because it's almost like I could see a nice little heel title run for Sheamus.
Possible.
Coming out of this. I just don't know if there's a way you can eliminate Rusev from the match without having him getting pinned or submitted because then you have the only guy who has pinned him or made him submit or quit is John Cena.
Pretty tough to do in this kind of a match without people, I think, groaning at something. However, he's kind of got his own separate program at this point with Dolph Ziggler. He could be somebody that is, slam dunk pick to just put the title on. I think the title would mean the most on Rusev of all six of these guys. And that's been my criticism. I feel that you've done a very good job with the U.S. title. You do have the Money in the Bank, which serves the same purpose here. And by adding things like the IC title and the King of the Ring, I feel it just waters it down. You cannot convince me that Wade Barrett has benefited at all from this King of the Ring win. No. It's given him, to me, a pretty hokey gimmick, and it's added nothing to him. He's just a guy in this middle of the pack.
I know, and in a day and age where a lot of people will say that wins and losses really don't matter that much, there is a point where it does. And if you're constantly losing, it's just you're perceived as a loser. It's simple.
And they've got that mix of guys in the middle. I would put Barrett there, even Sheamus right now, Ziggler, where it's just you have seen every combination of these matches so many times. It's very hard to differentiate them from the pack, and they're just viewed in this one level. I think Sheamus, they do have high hopes for. I think the heel character has been refreshing for him, and he's certainly someone that is a viable pick for the Chamber. Then we have the tag titles being defended. This is the first for Elimination Chamber. 6 teams with New Day defending them. This one could easily turn into a big cluster with so many bodies, but I feel that they'll do enough early eliminations. I think the Ascension will likely be in the R-Truth spot in this particular match. But you look at the talent in this match and the time they'll be given, I think this one could be match of the night. It could stun a lot of people who they're not necessarily focused upon teams, but very well could deliver. Yeah,
it is the potential show stealer, that's for sure. We were talking about this earlier that I was a little bit unsure about how it's going to start and the rules involved. Is it going to be 2 complete teams? Entire team starting off in a Texas Tornado style format.
That's my understanding.
With 4 teams
in the pods,
2 guys in each pod, which is going to make things a little cozy for some people. Anyways, I can see the Ascension getting a little close in that. But
Well,
anyways.
just for the comedy of seeing those two stuck in a pod together and maybe leaving them right till the end, I completely believe that will be the scenario and the role of the Ascension in this match, to look awkward in those pods. But I think we can agree they will likely not be leaving with the tag titles.
No.
Realistically, there's two focused upon teams of the 6 here, and that is Tyson Kidd and Cesaro and the New Day, who have been having a great series of matches. You throw in Los Matadores, the Lucha Dragons. I mean, those 8 bodies, I think, will provide the highlights of this particular match.
Most likely.
And it's flying under the radar, but I think this could turn into, as you said, the show stealer here that people may not expect going in.
It's interesting because, you know, they talk about which match might open the show, and you want to, you know, kick off the show with something that'll, you know, get the audience emotionally invested in the entire night. Maybe because of the, you know, the way that it is structured, where they could just lift it and raise it. Maybe start the show off with a chamber match. They're going
to have to pace it, because you're not going to be doing the chamber matches in close proximity of with one another, and you'd assume Rollins and Ambrose is going to be going on last. So I fully expect a chamber match to kick off the show.
Yeah, maybe this one would be the one.
And finally, let's chat Neville and Bo Dallas, and where you see Neville. He's kind of in no man's land at this point, and this seems like just a pit stop kind of program with Bo Dallas, who they are slowly eliminating the comedy aspects from, but it just feels Neville is trying to find his place, and I would argue that place should have been in the chamber match for the IC title.
That's what I thought. I thought for sure. I thought that was a no-brainer putting him in that match. He'd be the guy for your 1 or 2 nice, you know, high spots in that match. And, you know, going into it, too, with this whole injured knee scenario that he's got going on, that's a perfect out for him to get eliminated from the match, so you don't have to worry about hurting him as far as losing. So I don't understand the I guess you'd call it a drop down to Bo Dallas, but at the same time, maybe they're viewing this in their minds where, okay, we put Neville in there with some established superstars. Now we got to get Bo Dallas back on the map. Maybe by putting those two together, it kind of serves a dual purpose, but I'm not seeing it, though. I don't see it working that way, because I think Neville needs more right now, not more than Bo Dallas right now to establish himself on the card.
And we also do have the three-way Divas match where Naomi and Paige are going to be challenging champion Nikki Bella. What have you thought of Naomi's turn? Because I think she's surprised a lot of people just how naturally she's switched over. When the night it happened, I go back to where you see her on Total Divas. She comes across as such a likable person, but I think she's been great in this role.
No, she's great as a heel, and adding Tamina Snuka, it's almost like the female version of Shawn Michaels and Diesel. Oh, well, kind of, sort of.
You're going to anger people out there.
Oh, I know. They're going to be
Jimmy Corderas compares Naomi to Shawn Michaels in his prime.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I did, by the way. I'm, you know, like I said, I like the fact that she's, you know, reinvented her character a little bit. And this is going to be very nitpicky, but this is just me. And I don't think she needs those darn neon running shoes, because
Are they too distracting for you?
I think they are. I think they are a little bit of a distraction, because, you know, when...
I won't lie. I'm always focused on those shoes. I think they're awesome.
They're cool, but that's not where you want the focus of the match to be. You don't want somebody to be watching the match and going, hey, you know what? Those sneakers are pretty cool.
But how cool would it be if she started introducing the sweet chin music and started pumping the lights, and each time she stomps, it turns a different light, color? And then when she connects with it, it goes dark because it's lights out. And that's what you call the move. Lights out.
Can't top that. Can't top that. That's a Costanza moment right there. I'm telling you, that's it for me. I'm out of here. See ya.
But on that point, I feel that Naomi winning the title, I think that it would really freshen things up. I mean, Nikki Bella has had this title since November, and I think Naomi getting a run with the title would freshen things up, add some different matches. Yeah. And I think Naomi's done a very good job since being turned here. I think she should be commended. Not just, you know, in the ring, she's very athletic, certainly not the most polished of the women, but certainly on the microphone. I mean, last week on SmackDown, great back and forth with Paige. I mean, she's really answered the call of this heel turn, in my opinion. Yeah,
and I guess a lot of people, you know, you talk to a lot of people in the business, they always say, they have more fun being heels because they can actually let loose a little bit. They don't have to be as reserved and try to be that Well, no such thing as a white meat babyface anymore. There's no Bob Backlund's anymore. Gosh golly gee, because that's not going to get over. Look at John Cena.
Yeah, well, and I mean,
yeah, what a terrible message to send people. Hustle, loyalty, and respect, and never give up.
that is our preview of Elimination Chamber. It's coming up Sunday night, 8 o'clock Eastern on the network, and we'll be back next week chatting the fallout of Elimination Chamber and looking ahead to Money in the Bank, because it's just network special after network special, 2-week intervals. For Jimmy Corderas, I'm John Pollock, and thanks for tuning in.